Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Today, I'm joined by Abi King, a alcohol-free coach and the host of the Sober Connection podcast, and someone who's lived a life that's been anything but straightforward. This isn't one of those I drank a little bit too much and then stopped stories. Abi's really been through it. I know myself, having been on her podcast last year, so I've heard her story, and she's built a peaceful life on the other side of it. If you're listening and you're stuck in that loop of I'll stop soon, or you've tried to stop and you keep going back, this episode is going to hit. Right. Okay. Let's dive in. So for anyone meeting you for the first time, Abi, who are you and what does life look like right now?
Hey Luke. Thank you for inviting me on your podcast. My name's Abby. I am originally from the UK. I was born in Lincolnshire and I grew up just south of Birmingham. And in 2005, I moved with a backpack and no expectations to the other side of the world, to New Zealand. I had met a Kiwi fella on the beach in Brighton, and we decided to go on a little adventure together. So did that, came over in 2005, and here I am still 3 kids later. And I live in New Plymouth, which is in the North Island, sandwiched between the ocean and a mountain. So it's a really beautiful part of the world. I am now not married anymore, and I am helping people get sober, basically. So I have become the person that I needed when I was trying to quit for other people, and I do that through education and through my podcast and through coaching. So that is a very, very quick who I am right now in a nutshell.
So today you're concentrating on your coaching and your podcast. Is that right? In New
Yeah,
Zealand?
that's right. Yeah.
Because I backpacked around New Zealand back in the day. That must have been just before, well, around that sort of time in the 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
Um, Amazing, beautiful country. We did Australia and New Zealand, and we worked in an industrial laundry in the South Island in Queenstown
Oh, yeah.
for about 9 months. And I always, to be honest, I always wanted to emigrate there. For whatever reason, me and my wife, we didn't move over, but we came to the Isle of Man on holiday quite a few times, and it really did remind us of New Zealand. And I know a lot of people have said that it's got very similar weather. It's got that, obviously it's got like UK windy weather, and it's got lovely people, really, really nice, friendly people. Instead of going to the other side of the world, we decided to go to the Isle of Man. But yeah, New Zealand it's an amazing place.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's beautiful. It is beautiful. I think sort of in the last few years, I've probably been getting a little bit more homesick because obviously I left my marriage and I moved 2 hours away, and I moved to a town where I didn't know anybody. And so starting from scratch at my age, like I'm sort of 48 now, but I was mid 40s, starting from scratch when you don't know anybody and your kids have kind of grown up, like they don't, you're not going to kids sport after school and stuff like that. It's been quite tough. Like I've probably not I've not met as many people as I thought I would, and obviously the not
Mhm.
drinking does have an effect on that as well. Like back in the day, I would have been going to pubs and kind of having that sort of social life where, but I don't do that anymore. So yeah, how do you make friends as a sober person has been one of my big questions. Yeah, but I am considering. I think once the kids leave school and don't need me as much, I'm considering possibly moving back to the UK side of the world. Possibly not the UK, but I'm not sure yet. But yeah, we'll see. I'll stick to New Plymouth for now. It's pretty good.
Oh wow, yeah. So there's plenty more in the pipeline for you, but obviously we'll get more into that later on. So, what was your childhood like then, Abby? And how did, well, I mean, you said how you obviously ended up moving to the other side of the world, but what was your upbringing like?
Upbringing was great. I am an only child, which I'm probably, now that I look back on that, I've got 3 kids of my own. And so looking back on that, I didn't really think about it when I was younger because I didn't have anything to compare it to. But I think, having having three of my own kids and seeing how they sort of interact and stuff, I do miss the fact that I didn't have a brother or a sister. So I think, yeah, that definitely kind of had an effect on me, especially with my drinking, because I never really felt like I fit in anywhere. And drinking just kind of gave me the chance to fit in and to get confidence and to talk to boys and stuff like that. So I was an early starter. I started drinking at the age of 14. But yeah, previous to that, my mum and dad weren't drinkers. We just it was just me, my mum and dad. We were just a little team. We moved to Germany for 4 years when I was about 8. I still don't really know why we did that, but we did. It was just a decision that my mum and dad made. So we lived in Germany for 4 years. I was fully immersed in German life, went to a German school, spoke fluent German all the time, unless I was with my mum and dad. And then we moved back to the UK, just south of Birmingham, in a little village called Studley. And yeah, just that's where my misspent teenage youth kind of underway. So yeah, did that, ran away with the circus. For those of you that know my story, I ran away with the circus when I was 17 with a boyfriend, which sounds hilarious and sounds like a good time, but unfortunately that started 4 years of physical and sexual abuse from my boyfriend, and that unfortunately led to me drinking as a way to escape and a way to cope. And then when I finally left him, when we were living in London, that had become my coping mechanism basically for everything. So that's kind of how my drinking sort of unraveled, and it just became something that I did pretty much constantly. So yeah. But childhood was great up to that point.
What made you run away with the circus then, Abby?
So we were just looking for a summer job, and I'd been to the job centre in town, and they had all these different industries that you could work in, and in the miscellaneous section there was a little card saying, do you like to travel, own accommodation provided, £100 a week, phone this number, and nothing else. And so, it was intriguing anyway. So took down the details, spoke to my boyfriend, and I said, well, let's just phone up. Let's just see what this is, And yeah, when they answered, it was kind of like, hello, Circus Harlequin. And yeah, so it was a circus. It was just, well, I think we were there within a week. We were just like, yeah, fuck it. Let's go. So yeah, it was very random.
So you've always had that adventurous side to you then, definitely.
Yeah, I think so. And I think maybe that comes from moving around a little bit when I was a kid, and just knowing that there's more out there than where you are right now, So yeah, I didn't travel by myself until I was maybe 22, 23. But yeah, I've always sort of like wanted to see the world, definitely. So yeah, it was, we had a caravan with stars around the side of it, and I just thought it was very cool. But yeah, unfortunately it wasn't that great.
Yeah, I resonate a lot with that. It's just people say to me, a lot of people ask me what gave me the courage to move to the Isle of Man when we had a decent life in Bristol. But I think having traveled at a young age, I first went away when I was a teenager, and I went to Australia for a year on my own. And it was a massive step out of my comfort zone, but it did teach me a lot. And it showed me that there was a lot more to life than just in Bristol.
Yeah.
So a lot of my family and friends will say to me, "Why have you done this? Why have you done that?" But I think when you've done something that big that early at that young age, you crave more and more of it. You ignite an adventurous part of your soul almost, I think, and you've
Yeah.
always got that glorious side to your personality, and you always want to dip your toe in and try different things.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I've got that with my eldest daughter's about to go over to Northern Ireland. Actually, she's going to be an au pair. So she's 18. She turns 19 in September. But yeah, she's July. She's getting on a plane and flying to the UK by herself, and yeah, just starting her big overseas experience, and my heart is absolutely breaking for myself, but I'm so excited for her. It's just like, yes, go and see the world. She's going to have an absolutely fantastic time. So yeah, it's cool to be able to instill that sense of adventure in your kids as well. Like, we've traveled quite a lot. My ex-husband and I, we took the kids to a few different places, so they've seen a few different cool places, different cultures and stuff. And I think it's such a cool thing to instill in your kids, that sense of adventure, and that the world is a big place and there's some really cool places to see. So yeah, I'm excited to see what they they get up to when they get a bit older.
It's so bittersweet though, isn't it? Because you want to
Oh,
wrap them in
absolutely.
cotton.
My heart's breaking. I'm actually flying with her to Singapore, and then she's going to carry on to Heathrow, and I'm going to go to Singapore for a few days, but I'm going to be an absolute mess at Singapore airport. She's already
Yeah.
told me that I need to kind of calm myself down a little bit because she doesn't want this, she doesn't want the embarrassment of mum bawling her eyes out in an airport, but that's what
Yeah,
airports are for, right?
exactly. Yeah, I was talking to my mum about this actually. It was my birthday a few weeks back, and I was on the phone to my mum back in Bristol, and we were talking about when I first went traveling, and she come to see us off in Heathrow, London, and I was only 18, and I was taking a one-way ticket to Australia, and she was in floods of tears, and it was really emotional. And I was only a kid at the time, and I was just like, God, what's the matter with you? I'm just getting, it's not that big a deal. But if my lad's 15 now, he's 16 in October. And if I think about him going away to the other side of the world in 2 or 3 years' time, it scares the hell out of me. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah, it's mad, but we've got to let them go. We've got to let them do it, right? It's
Yeah,
all
yeah,
part of
yeah. Gotta let
growing.
them spread their wings. Definitely, definitely. How
Exactly,
exciting for them, eh?
exactly. So when you first started drinking, you've touched on it already, Abby. What did it give you?
It gave me confidence. It allowed me to fit in. Like I said, I think being an only child, I sort of have always
Oh,
struggled. I've never had, my girls, they've got each other and they'll always have each other, and I never had that. I had mum and dad who weren't cool at all. I wasn't going to hang out with them at the age of 14. And then, so I spent a lot of time on my own, and I love that now. I can't think of anything I'd rather do than be by myself these days. But as a 14-year-old, that's not what you want to do. You don't want to be that loner kid. So yeah, alcohol gave me, excuse me, the ability to fit in. It gave me confidence. It gave me the ability to talk to boys, and I just loved it from the get-go. Like, I just drank to get pissed. It was never I'm just going to have a couple and then I'll go to bed. Nah, I was getting written off every single time. So yeah, it was a very toxic relationship from the get-go, pretty much. Yeah. But I thought I was having fun. And I was. I mean, I've had lots of fun on, on the piss. But also it became a lot less fun. And then that's when sort of problems started, or I started thinking that maybe, yeah, we needed to change things a bit. So yeah.
did, did that happen soon? When did it stop being fun?
I think there was probably a few occasions where things happened and I became aware that it wasn't normal, or that, I definitely maybe should should look into things. But at the time, I just, I didn't even contemplate it. I remember being in Brighton. I actually became homeless in Brighton because I was so busy drinking and taking drugs that I couldn't afford my rent. And so then I had to do a runner from where I was living. And then I had to just couch surf. But I did spend 2 nights in a public toilet. So, that was, that's a pretty low point. Having to sleep in a public toilet in Brighton. So yeah, so that was, but it wasn't enough to stop me. But yeah, there was definitely occasions where I just kind of thought, hang on a minute, you're a little bit out of control here. But it wasn't really until I turned 40 that I really started looking into probably quitting. I'd sort of, like I said, going through that sort of pretty rough relationship from the age of 17 to 21. When I left there, I should have got counseling, but it was cheaper to get a pint. So I just drank the pain away.
Mm.
Then I went through my 20s and I was traveling and I was doing all this kind of stuff. And then I had my first daughter, and then I had a second daughter really quickly, and then a third really quickly as well. I had 3 under 3. So, we pumped out the kids, and then I was massively overwhelmed in a country on the other side of the world from my parents, no real support, no real friends. And I bought into the mummy wine culture, and I thought that, having having a wine at the end of the day was a reward for me for having got through the day with the kids, because it was all the kids' fault, like they were just so annoying and so loud and crying all the time and fighting. And, I'd done so well to get through that day, so I will have a wine. And then that wine became two, and then the two glasses became a bottle. And yeah, I fully bought into that. And so at the age of 40, I kind of thought maybe this is something that you want to look into, maybe quitting. Tried to quit just after my 40th birthday, thinking that it would be easy, and found it ridiculously hard. Couldn't do 10 days. And that's when I realized that I had a drinking problem. So yeah. And then the real work began. Yeah.
So what happened at 40 for you to say that this is it? I can't keep on going on like this. I mean, obviously you've been drinking then for a good 25 years.
Yeah.
20 years, really heavy, I'd imagine. So what happened for you to say, I've got to nip this in the bud, this is too much?
Yeah, I think initially it was just becoming a little bit self-aware. My drinking, I could never just have one. I could never just have one and be done. Some people around me could, or I'd go for dinners with friends, and I would be getting frustrated because they were taking so long to drink their glass of wine, and I wanted to order another one. Hurry up, let's go, let's get this party going, But everyone else was just sitting on a glass of wine, because apparently that's what you can. Some people can do that. And so I was kind of like, that's weird. That's kind of weird behavior. And then just getting really drunk and then not being able to function for the kids the next day, and just kind of thinking that maybe I wanted to be a bit of a better role model for my kids. What are my kids seeing? Kids might make a little bit of a joke, oh, mummy's on the couch again, or, mummy doesn't want to play with us today, or something like that, and it kind of just got to me, I think, a little bit. So I tried the 40 days. I thought I was the only person that had this problem, because everybody else around me sort of seemed to be able to drink no problem. There's a few people that used to get pissed, but I was the main instigator and the main one that couldn't control themselves. So I think that awareness came in. And then I read a book by a New Zealand author called Lotta Dan, who's been on my podcast, and she wrote a book called Mrs. D is Going Without. And I read that, and I was like, holy shit, this is me. I can fully relate to myself in these stories that she's telling, and it made me feel less alone. And so then I started looking at Facebook groups like 1 Year No Beer that used to be around, and then I sort of found there's actually a whole bunch of people that feel the same as me, and that kind of awareness that I'm not alone in this, and I think that was really powerful. So then I decided to do a 1 Year No Beer challenge that's just after my 40th. And like I said, that's the first time I tried to quit, and I couldn't. And I was like, shit, this is a problem, I tried to quit I tried it off and on, and then I just put it in the too hard basket. And then in the November after my 40th birthday, one of my kids, my middle daughter, she said, I don't like the sound of your voice when you're drunk. And I got drunk that night to process what she'd said. And I filmed myself talking about how I didn't want to be this parent. I don't even like drinking anymore. I'm just bored of it. I know how good I feel when I don't drink. I need some help. And I posted it to Facebook. And when I woke up the next morning, I had hundreds of messages and comments from people just going, you are so brave. You're amazing. You can do this. We're behind you. Let's go. And that started a 3.5-year battle with me trying to quit booze, which I finally did 4 years later. Yeah. So, and I'm 4 years sober now.
You're 4 years sober now.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Wow. So that video, I've seen that. Obviously, I've seen it on your page. So after that video, and you were trying to moderate for 3.5 years before you actually quit?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so, really. I sort of realized probably a couple of years in that moderation wasn't something that I really believed in. I feel, and I just interviewed Jodie Clark last on my podcast from Sober Flourish, and she said the same thing. I said, what do you think about moderation? And she's like, it's bullshit. It's, and I 100% agree. Some people can do it and that's cool, but I think if you can moderate, you don't need to try and moderate. Okay. So, if you can just have one or two beers and be done, then that's cool, but there's a lot of us out there that can't do that. Once we have that first drink, that's us. We don't want to have just one drink. We want to get written off. So yeah, so that was me. I think when I first started trying to quit, I just tried to white knuckle it. I didn't have any skills in place. I tried to develop this toolkit, the sobriety toolkit that everybody talks about, but I didn't really educate myself around what was going on. And so I was just stop starting all the time. Every other day was a day one. Then I'd go like a few weeks without a drink, but then something would happen and then I'd just go back to drinking. And so I wasn't really learning anything. And then once I started learning, that's when I started to see changes. But yeah, it was a long time. It was a hard slog. Definitely, definitely.
It was a slow process. It wasn't
Yeah.
an overnight success.
Sure wasn't. And I take my hat off to some people literally that they try once and they're done and they never drink again. And I'm like, wow, that's so cool. I take my hat off to people like that. But I also think that there's a lot to say for people that never give up. Because I like I said, it was like a battle between me and alcohol by the end of it. And the fact that I never gave up and my kids saw me never give up. And I think that has taught me such resilience of like, I want this so badly and I'm going to get there in the end. I know I will get there in the end, but fuck, it's pretty disheartening sometimes, when you just all of a sudden find yourself without even realizing why pouring another glass of wine after like a few weeks off. It's just like, why am I like, fuck, what's going on? Yeah, it's pretty soul destroying for a while there, but yeah, we got there in the end.
Yeah, it's so tough. And then there's all the guilt and shame that comes after it.
Yeah,
And you beat yourself up. And all the clients that I work with now, they always say the same. Whenever they slip back into it, they feel so bad and they really beat
yeah,
themselves up. But
yeah.
it's all part of the process.
It
It
is, and
really is.
you're not going back to square one, because
Mm,
hopefully you've learned from that. Like, well, why did you look at that? Why did you slip up? Like what was the reason? How were you feeling? Were you bored? Were you lonely? Were you just, were you upset about something? There's always a reason. And so as long as you can learn from that, then you're not going back to square one. You've learned and you're moving on and you're like, okay, well, I won't try that next time. I'll try this way instead, and you just find a way that works, and you'll get there. It's just, you've just gotta never give up. You just gotta believe in
mm.
yourself. So yeah.
It's all about the perseverance, like you said. You've got to, yeah, it's about true grit, but it's not going to happen overnight, and there's going to be lots of failures, and you've just got to move forward and keep on going because
Yeah.
you know it's you know it's the right thing to do because it's gone from being a good thing to being a bad thing. The pros and the cons have completely seesawed and completely changed around, and
Yeah.
it's something was fun back in the day, it no longer is, and you need to change. But you've been stuck in these subconscious habits and loops for so long. It's so hard to shift that identity and move into that new identity.
Yeah.
This is why it's so tough, and this is why we do what we do, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Like you're literally having to change your brain. So,
Mm,
it's not an overnight thing. Like I said, for some people it is, and that's amazing. But for a lot of people, it's like you're literally having to alter the chemistry of your brain and
mm,
get it back to how it used to be when you were a kid. Which
mm.
I hadn't been sober since I was 14. So, it's a bloody long time. Yeah.
It definitely is. What were your biggest triggers then, Abby? You've mentioned loneliness and boredom there. Was it stress? Did you have any social pressure
To be
in the
honest, it
group?
was everything. It was
Mm,
everything for me. I boredom, loneliness, social confidence and all that kind of thing. But, I thought that it made me a social butterfly and I was the life and the soul of the party, but I also drank by myself a lot. So, it wasn't one or the other. But yeah, it was stress, it was celebration, it was commiseration, it was good day, shit day. Honestly, it didn't matter. Like because I'd been doing it for so long, I had so many of these habit loops where my brain had gone like, when you feel like this is what you do to make it better, you know, and so I had so many of those that pretty much any occasion was an excuse to get on the piss. So yeah. And again, that's why I think it took me so long, because I had so many things that linked back to just have a drink, you know, that it'll make everything better. That you know, I had to undo all of those. So yeah, very very much a big job.
It's your old friend, isn't it? It's always there,
Yeah.
and it's socially acceptable. And I think what you've just said then about all the different things in life, all the different excuses, when we do it to have a good time, when we do it when we're not feeling good, you know, weddings, birthdays, funerals, it's just any event, it's any excuse. And it turns into just one long drinking session because you're constantly drinking because you know, you're tired from work, you're stressed, you're bored, you've got nothing to do, so you end up drinking all the time. It literally, I call it filling the voids. If there's any voids in your life, if you're not busy doing something
Mm,
where you can't drink, like like driving, like working, or whatever it might be, you're drinking, and it just takes over your life. But it's a real slow burner, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, and it just it's insidious. It just gets into all, like you said, it gets into all the gaps. And yeah, I think it's alcohol's very sneaky in that you don't realize that it's a problem until it's a problem. You know, like I said, you know, I tried to give up and I thought like, oh, how hard can it be to quit drinking for 30 days? Or I can't remember whether I did 30 or 90 days. I think I would have just done 30 at the, you know, just let's just start with 30 days, you know, and I couldn't even get to 10. And I was like, what is going on? Like, why can't I stop? Like, shit, this is a problem, you know? So yeah. But I had no idea that it was a problem before then. Like I'd never once thought that I had a drinking problem. I just knew that it was not, well, you know, like I just knew that it wasn't healthy and it probably should change. But yeah,
Yeah.
certainly didn't think it would be as hard as it was. Yeah.
You've mentioned a couple of times about comments from your daughters, and I had exactly the same thing from my son. My
Yeah.
son asked me if I was an alcoholic when I was grabbing one of those cans out of the fridge. Do you think that was the final thing for you? That was the final part where your kids really did hold up that mirror to you and highlight what was going on?
Yeah, I think it was definitely the catalyst, because I yeah, I knew, you know, like I'd started sort of 6 months before. I'd sort of tried to do it and then put it in the too hard basket. And then yeah, to have the realization that your kids, I think she said like, don't like the sound of your voice. Like, it scares me when you're drunk. And it wasn't that I was violent or anything. I wasn't an aggressive drunk. I was
Mm.
having a great time, you know. But I think it was just, you know, sloppy, slurring, you know, got a bit louder, a bit obnoxious, you know. You know, kids. I mean, just kids just pick up on that. When you
Mm.
think that you're being sneaky and that they don't pick up on it, like 100% they do. They pick up on everything, like your tone, and they just know, you know. And I just didn't want to be that mum, you know. I just was like, nah, I want to be a better role model for my kids. I don't want my kids to be like I was when I was 14, 15, you know. But yeah, it was huge. I'll forever be grateful to her for having had the guts to say something, because she was only 9, you know, but she's actually changed my life. You know, it's yeah, I'll never be able to thank her enough for it. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool thing for her to have done.
Yeah, I said the same thing to my son as well. I thanked him for what he said, and he can't even remember saying it either.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite funny. But like you've just said though, they pick up on everything, don't they? And I always say this to people: they're always watching, and
Yeah.
even when you feel like you can get away with stuff. Obviously, in your own home, you can be sneaky. Towards the end of my drinking, I was hiding cans in the bin. I was hiding drink around the house, or I was drinking quickly and then chucking a can somewhere, and all these little things. But of course, your kids are there, and sometimes, especially when you're pissed, you don't even think they're there, but they're
Mm,
watching everything and they're picking up. They're picking up on your mood. They're picking up on the way you're reacting to everything. So
yeah.
yeah, they're always watching, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you only ever really notice it when you do go sober, and they notice a difference in you as well, and they start saying, "God, you're doing this differently, Dad. You know, you're here a lot more. You're not so edgy. You're not so agitated." and then
Yeah.
it makes it all worth it, obviously, as well.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I started noticing that like when I was drinking, the girls, so I gave up, 4 and a bit years ago. So my girls were like 14, 13, and 11, say, when I actually gave up. But that 4 years of trying, they were obviously a lot younger, and they always just used to leave me at nighttime. We'd always have dinner together. We've always had dinner together, and then tidy up from dinner, and then I would go to the couch and put the TV on with my bottle of wine, glass of wine in one hand, bottle in the other, and I'd sit on the couch, and they would all just disappear off to their bedrooms. And that would be it. And I'd say goodnight to them if I remembered to say goodnight to them before I went to sleep, and that was that. That was our night. And their dad would be at work or whatever. And we owned a couple of restaurants, so it was like, if we were working, it would be until later on in the evening. And then slowly, when I stopped drinking, my eldest, Zoe, she just suddenly, I suddenly realized, I was like, oh, Zoe's on the couch with me, and then we'd start binge watching Game of Thrones or something. And every night the girls would like then start coming into the lounge, and, it wasn't, they actually wanted to hang out with me, and they'd make me a cup of tea, and we'd sit and have some chocolate, and we'd watch some TV, and, and it took me a while to realize, but it was like my kids are actually wanting to hang out with me now because
Yeah.
it's me. It's not me and the wine, and it was just little things like that. It doesn't have to be like a big announcement or a big thing. It's just like, oh, my kids are on the couch with me at nighttime. Like, how cool. And but then the guilt comes in because you're like, I've missed so much of this, like, this is magic, but I've missed so many years of them doing this. And then you start feeling like shit. So you have to stop that because you can't change the past. But it's but it's cool. Yeah. I mean, I sit with my kids, even my my middle daughter now, she's 17. She sits with me on the couch and we watch TV every night together. Just, like, even just for half an hour, we just have that sort of chill time together, and it's so special, it's, I wouldn't change it.
Yeah, it's what you've just said about having time back with your kids. Something that I do with my daughter now a lot more is we'll play board games like we used to a long time ago. But she would never have asked me if I was drinking because I
Yeah.
would have been too busy drinking, and I would have, and I was a different person. So yeah, now whether it's a game of Cluedo, there's a memory game that we always play. We play Jenga, all these different things. I cook, cooking and baking with her, just little things like this. But I've got the time now to do it
Yeah.
because normally you're so busy with everything else, and then you're in your spare time, you're drinking, you're filling that void, like I said earlier, and
Yeah.
and it just takes over everything, doesn't it? And that becomes the priority rather than obviously all the important stuff, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely prioritized my drinking. And
Oh,
it's something that I have to live with now. Yeah, I did a reel about it a while ago, and I just said, if you're a parent and you're drinking, please consider just stopping because you're missing out on so much. Like, it's just, yeah, I definitely prioritize my drinking over, my kids. If we had friends over, kids would come over, mum, and you're like, no, go away, like, off you go, like, go and play, because, like, actually telling them to go away, telling your own kids to go away because you're busy drinking, it's just, yeah, it makes me sad. It makes me sad now. But like I said, you can't change it. You can only just be better now, but unfortunately for me, I think, like, now that my girls are older, they don't need me as much, and so they're my eldest is off overseas, as I said, and yeah, like, I've missed it, but yeah, it's okay. I think I've made up for it in the last few years.
exactly. Better late than never, Abby.
Yeah, exactly.
So, talking of cravings, what are the top 3 tips that you give your clients for when cravings hit?
Top 3 tips. I would
Mm.
say just distract yourself.
Yeah,
For me, I was never a tea drinker, even though I'm from the UK. I never used to drink tea. I don't drink coffee either, but I used to put the kettle on every time I had a craving and make myself a cup of tea. And so sometimes at the start, I'd be having like 12, 15 cups of tea a day, depending if
yeah.
it was a stressful day or not, but yeah, so I drank a lot of herbal tea. Um, But yeah, just distract yourself. The craving's going to be gone, like go for a walk, go and have a shower, just do something that isn't going to end with you going to the fridge and getting yourself a drink. Yeah, that would be probably the top one. I think I don't know if I've got three. I think that's probably the main one, to be honest. Just distract yourself and yeah, see how you feel or you could write about it and just have that self-awareness. Like what am I feeling right now? Am I bored? Am I lonely? Is it just a habit, because the majority of the time it's just that anticipation of getting a drink is because you're used to getting a drink at that time of the day, or can I do something else around it? I mean, there's so many alcohol-free alternatives now, pour yourself an alcohol-free drink if you don't find it too triggering. It works for some people, doesn't work for others, but, pouring yourself a nice fizzy drink into a wine glass or a champagne glass, a lot of the time it's just it's the ritual of having poured yourself a drink more than the actual drink itself. Yeah, right. So yeah, a lot of my clients do have one of my clients has got what she calls a fizzy fridge, and so she's literally like stocked a fridge that used to have wine in it that's now just full of all different flavored sparkling waters and all these, and she sort of picks and chooses depending on her mood. So that's quite a neat idea to just find some alternatives. Yeah.
Yeah, that's half the battle, I think, is treating yourself after that long day. You've already touched on the mummy wine culture. That's a big part of it, isn't it?
Mm.
So alcohol-free beers have been really, really big for me. On a weekend, I'll still have a Guinness Zero or a Heineken Zero or whatever it might be. But I still find, because I've drank alcohol for decades, just the smell and the ritual, like you said, pouring that glass, gives me that dopamine hit when I smell
Yeah.
it. And because my brain, like you were saying about rewiring your brain earlier, my brain has been wired to associate that smell, that ritual with pleasure. So I think if you can still treat yourself and you don't get triggered by alcohol-free stuff, it can be a really good thing. What is your take on alcohol-free? Do you have alcohol-free wine, lager, or anything like that, or nothing
I
at all?
don't so much anymore, actually. I'm a water and a herbal tea kind of girl. Yeah, I've definitely found them helpful in the past. I know like the first couple of summers, there's a really nice 0% cider over here. That's
Mm.
not overly sweet. It's quite dry. And so those were kind of like my go-to if I was going to social occasions or whatever. But now I just don't really bother. We might go out for a meal and I might have like a 0% beer, but it's very rarely that I do that. I'll just be like, yeah, maybe a Coke Zero will be my fancy drink, or yeah, but it's usually just water and tea. I definitely think that they are very helpful for some people, but I also understand that some people find them triggering in their own way. So yeah, it just depends what works for you. Yeah. But I don't feel the need to anymore. Yeah, quite happy
I
with my
used to
tea.
drink a lot more of them when I first went sober. I've been sober like a year and a half now. But
Yeah.
yeah, in the beginning I was drinking them all the time. But now not so much. I'll normally have them when I go out, uh, when we go out socializing or whatever, because you
Mm.
still want to be part of the group, don't you? Sometimes you feel a bit stupid with your lime and soda or your lemonade or whatever, and you don't feel that manly. I don't know whether it's different for men or whatever, but um, yeah,
No, I'm not trying to feel manly, so yeah, probably.
if I'm drinking Guinness Zero out of a glass, people don't even know. They think I'm
No,
drinking Guinness.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why it works for people because that's why it works because if you pour something into a glass, no one's going to question whether it's got alcohol in it or not. So, if you're struggling and you're still not confident telling people that you're not drinking, it works fine. It's great. I do. There is a 0% prosecco. I never
Mm.
even used to drink prosecco, but there's a 0% prosecco, and that is like a special occasion, maybe like Christmas Day or something. I'll get a bottle of that. But to be honest, like I said, it's not. I have zero social life these days, and I'm quite happy about that. So and the pub culture is very different here than it is in the UK. So it's not like I think if I was in the UK, it would be different. I would probably I'd probably
Yeah.
get into it a bit more. But there's so many more options in the UK as well. Like over here, it's still just Heineken Zero. There's a few more coming out now. I went to the UK a few years ago, and was it 2022? I went to the UK by myself, and I was like a kid in a lolly shop. I was just like, whoa, at the supermarket. Like, oh my God, there's so many options. We don't have, it's getting better, but it's nothing
Mm.
like in the UK over here. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we're a bit spoiled here actually. In the last couple of years, it's really, really booming. I think a lot of
Yeah.
these big alcohol companies are panicking a bit, and especially with Gen Z and all the younger generation not drinking as much, they're
Yeah.
bringing out a
Yeah.
lot more alternatives. And there's quite a lot of cider, like you just said, 0% ciders now as well.
Yeah.
And the wine's getting a lot better as well because I always used to love red wine, especially with steak and chocolate and
Mm.
stuff. I was a big red wine drinker. So I've now found, like, here on the Isle of Man, there's one, 'cause it's a bit like New Zealand as well. It's a bit cut off, but the there is a wine cellar place in Douglas here, in the capital of the Isle of Man, and they do a lovely alcohol-free red wine. So
Oh, really?
I'm really, really, really happy about that. Yeah, because you haven't got all the different supermarket chains over here. You've got Tesco's and you've got Co-op, but they're very small stores compared to the UK.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was very chuffed to find that actually. So yeah, I've been having that now with my roast dinners, which has been really, really nice.
Yeah. Nice. I think that was my thing. Like I always drank like full-bodied Aussie red wine,
Yeah.
and you just couldn't get an alcohol-free alternative that was anywhere close to that. And so I was like, nah, I'm just not. I'd rather have nothing than have like a because it's still the same. It's pretty much still the same price, right? So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just yeah, no, I'm good without. But yeah, I do definitely see the benefits for some people. Like yeah, um, but yeah, whatever works. You just gotta find what works for you when you're going through it. So,
So since you've gone sober, Abby, what changes have you seen in yourself?
oh well, I am much more patient. I
Yeah.
am. I make decisions from a clear place. I was 11 months sober and I left my marriage, and the decisions that I had to make. And then I moved towns to somewhere where I didn't know anybody, mainly because my two eldest girls were boarding down here. And so I moved down here and pulled them out of boarding school and just tried to disrupt them as little as possible. But all of the decisions that I made in that time going through my marriage breakdown were 100% made from a clear place. So I yeah, just knowing, well, I didn't necessarily 100% know that they were the right decisions, but I definitely knew that they were better decisions than if I'd been doing it from a hungover state or from being drunk. So that was great. I'm just a lot calmer. I'm not as social as I thought I was, which I touched on before. So I thought I was a
Yeah.
social butterfly, but I'm quite happy being by myself. I do spend a lot of time by myself and I enjoy that. I'm a lot more driven. I'm a lot more ambitious. I am a lot more confident. I talked about this on one of my podcasts a few weeks ago. It's funny that you start drinking alcohol to give you confidence, but I'm so much more confident now that I don't have alcohol as my crutch. So I have genuine conversations with people. I'm interested in what people have to say. It's not surface level bullshit. Let's have a proper deep conversation. And I really love that. So yeah, I'm just drunk me from 4 years ago would not recognize the person that I am today. And I'm really proud of that. So yeah.
Yeah, I was recently speaking to someone about the confidence thing, because people will still argue with me. They'll say, "Yeah, but I drink because it gives me confidence," and then without trying to trigger them, I'll say no. 'Cause, yeah, getting all judgmental, getting up on my high horse. I say, um, it's giving you false confidence because it's actually eroding your true confidence. You
Mm.
don't need that drink to be that person. I mean, that's not you speaking anyway. When you think it's giving you confidence, it's building a persona, it's turning you into someone that you're not. And yeah, I've spoke many times about this. It's one of the things I've really struggled with since going sober, not being so judgmental and just trying to keep a lid on it in those social settings. I think I've spoke about this on your podcast when I come on yours. It's something that I really struggled with, but I've got a lot better. The last, like this year, I've been really good. I've been really restricted. I haven't been beating the drum. But I think when you go sober and you feel so great and it's life changing, especially in the line of work that we're in, you want to scream it from the rooftops, don't you? But
Mm,
it's hard.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. I think, yeah, the confident. I think when you're, I think it's a different kind of confidence. But I just, yeah, just if you think about the conversations that you've had with people, I remember even, sitting with good friends, and we would have been drinking the weekend before, and then we've got together and we're drinking again, and we're having the same conversation. We talked about this last week, but it's hilarious again because because it's got a slightly different spin on it. But we've had this conversation before. It's like when you're just listening to the same music all the time because you're pissed. Like all the time, it's the same. You know, it's surface level bullshit.
Yeah.
It's not deep and meaningful. And I think yeah, I'd rather have less conversations that are deep and meaningful now than the hundreds of conversations that I had with random people when I was pissed. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're so much more productive as well. We were out today, and the weather's just picking up here. It's obviously springtime now, summer's approaching, and we were out today, and we did so much. We were out paddle boarding. We were out walking the dog. We did a bit of kayaking. We did a bit of a coastal walk. Just
Yeah,
all these
cool.
different things. And I was saying to my wife last summer when I first went sober, I just couldn't get over how much more stuff we'd done. And we would just be in the pub or we would be at home drinking, filling in
Yeah,
those voids. I think when you go sober, you push yourself to live again because when you're so stuck in those drinking cycles, you just turn to drink because it's easy, it's there, and you just end up pissing your life away, basically. That's what I was
yeah.
doing anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that probably comes from when people quit as well and they first think like, "God, this is so boring. Like, what do you do?" It's like because you've got so much time on your hands, you're so used to filling that void, like you said, with drinking that when you don't have the drink anymore, you're like, oh my God, I've got so much time. Like, God, this is boring. Like, what do you do? Well, you fill it with other stuff. Like, you can do whatever you want because you're not filling it with alcohol. So it's once you have that kind of like mind switch of like, oh yeah, I've got heaps of time. It's not a bad thing. Like it's a good thing. So but it
Yeah.
does take a while, but just again, it's just your brain is so used to filling that gap with alcohol that like if you're not doing that, well, what the hell do you do then? But yeah, the answer is that you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah. It's just that adjustment period, isn't it? And I think
Yeah,
I think you touched on it earlier on. You said finding other people that similar people, like-minded people is such a big thing. That's why social media, I think, was such a good thing for me. It gets
yeah,
a real bad rap, but finding a community of people, like-minded people that can help you, because in the beginning it's so foreign. Like this term sobriety, especially for men with their egos as well, breaking down that ego, it's really tough.
yeah.
And if you can surround yourself with like-minded people and learn from them, it makes a really big difference. And it really has for me. Community.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, I didn't have any real life support. So for me, yeah, I massively leaned into the social media side of things. And it was the first time that I'm pretty sure it was the first time that I really used Instagram was when I started getting sober and I just started following all these accounts because you can learn so much from the people that are further ahead from you.
Yeah.
And what I found, which was really cool, was that nobody judges you because we've all been there. We've all done shitty things when we've been drunk. And so you could just say the worst thing ever, and everybody will be like, ah, yeah, you're all right. It's okay. We've all done it. It's kind of, it doesn't, and to feel not judged I
Yeah.
think is such an important thing when you're feeling all of these feelings like shame and you feel alone and you feel like you're the only one that's going through this. You feel ashamed, you're embarrassed. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror because I just hated what I saw. I knew that I was failing my kids and myself and my husband, and yeah, just to sort of have people that have got your back and that are going to give you a kick up the bum when you need it. They're going to give you a virtual hug when you need it. They're going to cheer you on when you get to a milestone. Like that is massive. Like it's huge. And I think the good thing about social media is that somebody is online anywhere in the world, so you can call out at 2 p.m. my time. Someone
Mhm.
in America is going to be awake. UK people might be asleep, but someone in America will be like, you got this, it's all good, like, let's go. How good is that? You get like a response from a stranger on the other side of the world telling you to
Yeah.
keep going. Like you can't beat it. Like I rate the sober community online like as so important, so good for support. So yeah, definitely a tool to have in your toolkit. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It does get a bad rap, but there's so many positives. I've absolutely loved the sober Instagram since I went sober.
Yeah.
So, Abby, if you could go back and speak to that younger self who ran away with the circus back in the day, what would you say to her?
Well, I would probably tell her not to do it. I would be like, "This is gonna change your life in ways that you can't possibly imagine." But no, honestly, I have no regrets. There's a few things that I wish hadn't happened in my life. I wish I hadn't been in that abusive relationship for 4 years, but it got me to where I am today, and I've got some stories and I've had some adventures and I've had a pretty amazing life and I'm so happy with where I am now. So I would just tell her, I don't even know. It's a hard question because like I said, I don't have any regrets. I think, yeah, you could say, you know, just try and lay off the booze or, all of these different things, but every one of my experiences has taught me something and I'm self-aware enough now that I've learned from those. I do quite a lot of reflection on previous parts of my life and, like even earlier on this at the start of this year, I wrote a letter to my ex-husband apologizing for my part in the breakdown of our marriage because when you first split up, it's like, well, it was all his fault or it was all her fault, and I just said, look, I wasn't happy and I was drinking too much and I was a shit mum and I was a shit wife pretty much. And I just want to apologize for that. And I think owning your own shit is very, very important and just being accountable for the stuff that you've done. Like you can't change it, but just accept it, learn from it and move on, I think is just such a huge thing. It's actually me writing him that letter is actually we're pretty good now. Like we get on all right now. And I think that that's really beautiful, especially for the girls to see. So yeah, I don't think that I would tell her to change anything really because I've got through it and I'm doing all right. So yeah. And I'm
And
living in New Zealand in near the
you're living
I
in
can
New
hear the
Zealand.
ocean from my bedroom window, like it's cool. It's cool. We're doing all right.
Yeah, you've lived a full life, that's for sure. Anyway, Abby.
Yeah.
So, what does the next chapter look like for you, and where can people find you?
So for me, I'm just focusing on my coaching. So yeah, just helping people like me get through and try and attain a sober life. And I don't push it as you have to be sober forever. I just want as many people as possible to take a break, and just see what it's like when you're not drinking all the time. It's really magic. So yeah, just focusing on that, focusing on my podcast. I've got focusing on trying to spend as much time with my kids as I can. Like I said, my eldest is about to fly the coop. So yeah, just trying to enjoy them as much as I can and get a bit of travel in there and just enjoy my new peaceful life. Yeah. But yeah, people can find me on Instagram, levelup.withAbby. That's ABI for Abby. Levelup.withAbby. Also, and my podcast, The Sober Connection, is on all good platforms. So yeah, that's me.
So your advice for someone then, Abby, that is struggling like you were back in the day, is that your advice for them to have a break, just to give it a try? Would that be for 1 month, like a dry January or stop October, as we have here in the UK, or would you recommend trying 3 months? What would your advice be for that person?
I I think definitely like a 30-day reset is
Yeah.
a great start. The problem that I find with the kind of like the dry Januaries and things like that is that a lot of people do them, but they don't take the time to learn while they're doing them. So they will white knuckle, and I did this too. I will white knuckle my way through 31 days. I will absolutely hate it. It will make me realize why I want to drink because I'm not learning anything. This fucking sucks. And on the first of the next month, I'm going to get on the piss again and I'll just be back to square one, probably drinking more, because I'll be like, I got to make up for the last month. Um, that is pointless. I think taking your time, listening to podcasts, imagining what your life will be like if you continue this. I mean, you can have some benefits in a month of giving up booze, right? Your sleep within a week will start to improve, and that's massive. Like actual when you have your first proper night's sleep that's not
Mm.
just from you passing out, you will wake up in the morning and be like, whoa, what have I been missing out on? So there's so many benefits that you can get from a month off, but if you can get to 100 days, that's where the real magic sort of starts to happen. And if you can even continue and go like, I'm just going to keep doing this a little bit longer, a little bit longer, you don't have to set time. You just have to, just take a break. And if you like what's happening, then just keep going and keep going. And if you want to extend it, just do that. You could end up getting to a year. And then once you've got to a year, you've done all of those things in a year. You've done birthdays, you've done weddings, you've done parties, you've done Christmas. And then my question to you would be, well, why would you go back? And if you want to go back, then that's fine. But at least you've got the evidence of what it's like when you're not drinking. And I think that that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Such a good point. There's so many people will look at that and they'll do that month and they'll white knuckle it, like you've touched on earlier on. I was counting the days down the first time that I did a sober stint, and I remember back in the day, I used to go on call out, and I used to have a week off of drinking because I was obviously driving. I was on a 24-hour call out, and I always remember um, counting down the days until Monday when I could get back on the piss. That's how bad
Yeah.
things were. And
Yeah.
I remember saying to my boss that I didn't want to do it, and I said the main reason is because I want to drink, especially on the weekend. And I remember telling him once, "Oh, I can't wait for Monday. I'll be, even though it's a Monday, I'll be straight on it because I've had a week off." And he was like, "Really, Luke?" And yeah, yeah, many many moments like that when people were just like, "Really? Do you think you might
Yeah.
have a bit of a problem?" No, I ain't
Yeah.
got a
The
problem.
old raised eyebrow. Like, are you sure? But I can relate. So yeah, I know. I get you.
Thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you for
You're
being so
welcome, Luke.
honest and
Thank
giving up
you.
your time, especially knowing that is because of the time difference. It's very early over there in New Zealand.
Oh, it's
I
not
know.
too bad now. I'm awake now. No, it's 9:10. It's fine.
But yeah, thank you for being so open and honest, because I know this stuff isn't easy to talk about, and I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing it. Thank you so
All
much.
good. All good, Luke. Thank you. Thank you.
No worries, Abby. Take care.
You too. Bye.